Hey, my name's Rafael, you're watching Rock and Roll Garage, and today we're going to talk about the 5 musicians that Mr. Alice Cooper would choose to be part of his dream band. But first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, leave your comment, tell me what you think, which would be the name of this band, if you like his choices or not. And if you don't want to watch the video, you can go to the description and read the article about this, okay? Well, he gave an interview back in 2017 to the famous British newspaper, The Guardian, and he listed the 5 musicians that he would choose to be part of his dream band, and that's what we're going to talk about a little more in this video. Well, let's start with the drums. He chose a dear old late friend who was Mr. Keith Moon, certainly one of the greatest drummers of all time. Keith was the Who's drummer, and he was part of all their classic albums, their fantastic albums from the 60s and 70s. He tragically passed away back in 1978 at the age of 32, and he was an incredible drummer. He was extremely influential, as we all know. So many great solos, so many incredible things he did with The Who. And he was a really good friend of Alice. I mean, Keith was known for not being the sober guy. He wasn't the most quiet guy on earth. He did a lot of crazy stuff. That's why he had the nickname Moon the Loon, right? And Alice, at the time, back in the 70s, was still struggling with all those things, with addiction and everything. So besides being good friends, they were, having that same kind of lifestyle. So they were really good friends, and that friendship tragically, obviously, came to an end after Moon's passing in 1978. So that would be Alice's choice to the drums, and then he chose a guitarist who is the late Jeff Beck. I mean, Jeff was also another really good friend of Alice, and it's interesting because when you think about Alice Cooper, many people might remember more him as a solo artist and remember more about his 80s and especially maybe his 80s albums. He had many great albums in the 80s, but obviously when Alice Cooper was a band originally, they started way back in the early 70s and late 60s. And you might look at Alice and don't connect him with these guys, with Keith Moon, with Jeff Beck, people who started in the 60s. Well, Alice also started in the 60s. And he was a really good friend of Jeff Beck, although they made really different kind of music if you look closer. But Beck was really a good friend of Alice, and he is often called the guitarist's guitarist. He is incredibly influential. He influenced countless guitarists all over the world and over the decades, and he really was and continues to be an inspiration. And there are many incredible guitarists like Brian May, for example. Queen's Brian May, he said that there won't be nobody anymore. It's not going to exist someone like Jeff Beck, someone who really could play anything like he did and could come up with things that nobody else could. So he's really an interesting choice for the list, and we're going to continue. And he chose another great guitarist who is and songwriter, who was Keith Moon's bandmate, who was Pete Townson. And Pete, he is The Who's main songwriter. He wrote most of the music and lyrics for The Who. So he was the creative mind of The Who, although he had many other 3 incredible bandmates who helped, of course. But historically, Pete was the main songwriter and the guitarist, and sometimes singer. Obviously, there's a lot of great The The Who songs with Pete on vocals. So it's another interesting choice. So until now we got half The Who and plus Jeff Beck in the band. And the two other choices, the two other members Alice would choose for the band. The first one, it would be the bassist, who would be Paul McCartney. You know, can you imagine that? You know, until now we got Jeff Beck, Keith Moon, Pete Townson, and now Paul McCartney, who is not only one of the greatest bassists of all time, certainly one of the most influential and one of the most influential and successful songwriters of all time. And he's another one that Alice would choose. And Alice also knows him. They're good friends, although they're not. He didn't become as close to McCartney as he was to Jeff Beck and Keith Moon, as far as we know. And the final choice would be another Beatles member. It would be the late legendary John Lennon, with who Alice had a really beautiful friendship back in the 70s as well, especially when Lennon lived in LA, in Los Angeles for a while, when he wasn't with Yoko Ono for a while, and he lived in Los Angeles, and he was part of the famous drinking club, which was called the Hollywood Vampires, which also had Harry Nilsson and Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees, and obviously Alice. And they used to go to the famous Rainbow Bar and Grill to drink, and that was their drinking club. And that's the origin of the name Hollywood Vampires, the supergroup that Alice formed with Joe Perry and Johnny Depp, probably almost more than a decade ago or now. And that was the inspiration behind that. And so he met Lennon, and they knew each other for quite a while, and they were good friends. And this is the super group that Alice would form if he could. And, you know, Keith Moon, Pete Townson, so you got half The Who. John Lennon and Paul McCartney, that's half the Beatles, and Jeff Beck and Alice himself, who knows, could be part of it. And in the interview with The Guardian, he said this thing about Lennon and McCartney. He said that Lennon would be on the third guitar, and that McCartney and Lennon would be singing together. That's the whole background behind that band that Alice said. And well, that's it. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, leave your comment, tell me which would be the name of this band, and if you think it would work. So please don't forget to do all that, and visit rockandrollgarage.com. Okay? See you later.